Good morning. This is the June 16th, 2020 first meeting of the Arlington County Board of Equalization. The first case on the agenda that we'll hear is RPC 14020-113, the property located at 1050 North Taylor Street. Mr. Richard Brinley is the appellant. And Mr. Brinley, you can start with your 8 minutes to tell us about the case.
Okay. First, I want to find out if the board ever received my packet, because the information that I received from the board, my photographs and remarks are totally missing. And without those things, there's no reason to go ahead with this case at this point, and I'd ask for rescheduling.
Yes, everybody has the case, sir.
Do you have the photographs I sent in April?
Does everybody have them?
They're interior shots, shots of a terrace, and also photographs of comparably sized apartments that were sold recently in the Windsor Plaza complex.
I've just got the terrace.
Yeah, I
That
just
was a
terrace.
photo. Now, that's a photo taken by the department, the real estate department. That's not the packet I sent in on the 14th of April.
Okay, Mr. Carvajal, do you have this information?
What we received from the appellant, we attached to the BOE packet. What we got was the application for review that had a couple paragraphs written, and then the application for the BOE that had just about a sentence about a comparable and some words, but that's all we have on our end.
Well, there was an attachment of photographs, several photographs, and a page with my remarks that were attached to the application for appeal. And those things are missing.
Okay, Mr. Brinley, did you reach out to the appraiser and ask about this?
I reached out to Ms. Torres 2 or 3 times over the last week or so.
Ms. Torres, are we in receipt of this information?
I emailed him back, I responded back, and I told him that what he sent, that's what we had. So whatever is in the package that I sent him, that's all we received.
So that's not what I sent, and I have a receipt from the post office. I sent you the cover sheet that said, see attached photographs and remarks. They were all together in one envelope, sent on the 14th of April. And what I have seen in the emails only doesn't even have the correct document that I sent in for the equalization assessment appeal. And without the without the attachments, there's no sense in the proceeding with this morning.
Okay, so the department is not in receipt of any of this information?
Evidently not, but I sent it on the 14th.
I'm sorry, I'm asking the question of the department. So you do not have this information?
Everything that gets sent here, file-wise, everything gets uploaded. So if he did send anything, it should have been in the package. Right now, I don't have anything that has not been uploaded.
Okay, but he's indicating that he's got a receipt of sending it to the department. So obviously there's some confusion there.
Mary, this is Rick Millman.
Yes, sir.
If he would like to send, maybe we should reschedule this appointment for a couple of weeks after. And if he could resend or bring it, make a phone call and deliver the
Yeah, more than happy to.
Yeah, because
make an appointment that we make sure we receive or give you a receipt personally.
Yeah. Are you open after Governor Northam has screwed up Northern Virginia? Are you people now open where I could bring in the packet?
If you'll call our main number, 703-228-3920. There is a receptionist at the HR desk several hours a week, I think on Wednesdays.
Okay,
You call that number or that same number, they can refer a call to me, Richard Millman, I'm the director.
okay,
I'll make sure somebody is there. We can work on a time convenient the next day or two for you to get the package to us. That
Yeah.
information.
okay.
Okay, so then where we're at, then what we're gonna do is you're gonna reach out to the county, just to keep this clean. I'll go ahead and motion to postpone this case, this RPC. Would somebody second that motion?
I'll second the motion. This is Jose.
Okay, so Mary Dooley had motioned, Mr. Penaranda had second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Mr. Brindley, if you would reach out to the department
Yep.
and get that information, we'll get you rescheduled, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Brindley can sign off. Do we have the Rossettis in a queue? Rosa?
I'm checking.
Oh,
I
okay, I'm
don't
sorry.
see them. Yes, I don't see them. Okay,
They're
he's
coming
there
in
now. I just let him know. And
Hey, Mary, this is Barnes. I don't see that hand that we're supposed to click to be able to get permission to speak.
Okay, if you hover down at the bottom, a bar comes up.
Yeah, I've got it.
Do you
Does
see the
anyone-
3 dots?
Dots. Yeah, I see it.
See the
More
hand
action.
next to it?
Yeah, Mary, I've got the same problem.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
I don't
It's
have
just
it.
Not there. I looked before.
Okay, then you're gonna have to physically raise your hand. Ken, do you have the hand that can go up? Mr. Metzgen?
I have the little hand. It's right next to the 3 dots.
No, not Jose. I'm sorry, Ken.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay. So then, because I don't see you on the screen, so I won't see your hand coming up, you'll just have to, after everybody's done questioning, if you have a question, you'll have to interrupt and say, I have a question.
Oh, I see me on the screen. Nobody sees me on the screen?
I see you now.
see them.
Now you see me. Okay.
Okay, do we have the Frasettis?
Yes, Mary, they're on.
There, okay. All right, well then, next on the agenda is the second case. It's RPC 04003011 at 3660 North Oakland Street. I'm not sure who's going to speak, but Mr. and Mrs. Frasetti, you have 8 minutes to tell us about your case.
Very good. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you, sir.
Okay, very good. I'm going to share my screen with you here. Can everyone see my screen okay?
No,
No,
No. Okay. Let's try one more time here. Okay, here we go. How's that? Better?
yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to hear my case. I'll jump right into it. And first, I will preface this by saying that my career has been spent in the valuation of businesses. I work in mergers and acquisitions, so I fully appreciate and respect the fact that valuing assets of any kind is a bit more of an art than a science. So I fully understand that going in. I'll just walk you through a few pages here. There are, multiple data points that indicate my property value isn't assessed properly. In the Arlington Department of Real Estate Assessments letter that was sent to me on March 20th, they did use 3 primary comps as as comparable analyses to help support the valuation. And I had these 3 are listed here in the second bullet. 2 of them are very relevant, similar size, similar layout, things that you would expect when you're looking at the valuation. The middle comp, I didn't believe was at all comparable, frankly, because it was a brand new house inside. It was super high-end appliances, brand new, wood floors. The interior was entirely gutted, and it was a brand new house. During my conversation with Ms. Vitas on April 1st, before appealing to this board, she looked at it and she seemed to agree and said that, yeah, that actually is brand new. I agree that's probably not the best comp, but it still wasn't removed as support for valuing my home. So that's, from a comparable perspective, that's the first point. Over the past 5 years, I've actually felt that the property assessment was off for a couple of years, but it wasn't until this year really where I felt like that, that typical slight discount between valuation and assessment completely sort of inverted, where I actually think the value of the home, the market value, is lower than the assessment. And, over the past 5 years, my assessment has risen faster than the average single-family home appreciation for Arlington, and also faster than the immediately adjacent properties on either side of me. So, I listed here in the middle my home and the assessments over the past 5 years in the annual growth from that versus the 2 adjacent homes. I didn't put the addresses because I didn't want to call them out, but I put adjacent home number 1 and number 2. As you can see, the overall assessed value, the growth has risen much more quickly in the magnitude of the variance between the 2, which are very similar homes. In fact, one adjacent home is actually larger than mine. The other one is slightly smaller because they have an unfinished basement, so it doesn't count in the square footage. But when you walk in, there really is no material difference. Likewise, my lot size is admittedly a couple thousand square feet larger than theirs, but you really can't even tell because of the layout. There's a very steep slope in the back where if you were looking from the naked eye, you would think the homes are nearly identical, which makes sense because they were built the same year, probably the home builder. So my home has an 11% premium on it, which I don't believe is warranted. Just coincidentally, because of the low rates, I decided to refinance my mortgage, and I started this process 2 months ago. my lender is Loan Depot. It's a top 10 mortgage originator in the country. Just behind Bank of America, they do something like $30 billion of loan originations. And they had to, as part of this process, appraise my property value to determine loan to value and other characteristics that they need. Now, as I said at the beginning, I don't put weight on any one particular metric, but they've been doing this for a long time, and their assessment was basically $1 million. They have here, as I've highlighted on this closing disclosure, and this was from Friday, you see June 12th. Their estimated property value was $999,999. So why they didn't just do $1 million, I don't know, but that was their assessment. And so it was obviously very different, and they didn't share with me a full 20-page appraisal, but they have their own valuation assessment criteria, and this is what they came up with. And this is a company that's, that is one of the leaders in loan originations. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. So in conclusion, I think when you adjust for the sale comp that I believe is completely irrelevant, my home is appraised significantly higher than the other comparables. It's also risen faster and has a significantly higher premium than the two immediately adjacent properties that have a very, very similar size and very similar layout in my neighborhood directly next to me. And of course, as I just mentioned, my home's being refinanced by a home lender, and they had a dramatically different property assessment as well. And so, as I mentioned, evaluation, I understand. You can't go to every single home in Arlington and do a hand-by-hand analysis, but I think that they missed the mark here with my home, and I think that the value is assessed at a higher value than is justified. Again, I only took this because I think it's inverted. It's now inverted where I believe the market value is below the assessment value, and I don't think that is fair to from a tax perspective. So I will leave it at that, and I thank you very much for your attention today.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Vitus?
Hi, good morning. So the property is a brick split level built in 1960 with an effective age of 1990. The home is 5 bedrooms and 3 full baths. When submitting their original appeal, the appellant felt that their property has structural maintenance issues and should not result in their assessment increase. They also believe that the slope and the presence of the county sewer in their backyard prevents them from any future modifications and should be compared differently than other lots. He felt that the value of the 2 neighboring properties, 04, 003, 010, and 12, better reflect what his property should be. An inspection was conducted on March 13th, and the only change made was the removal of 1 bedroom, which had no effect on the overall assessment. During the interior inspection, the appellant addressed several of the structural maintenance issues, all of which were deferred maintenance. The overall condition of the property is in line with the year built of 1960 and an effective age of 1990. When considering the appellant's issue with land, the county only values what exists on the current lot and not the potential use of additions or new construction. The county values all single-family land the same, applying a base lot method to the average home site in each neighborhood. This places a base value on each lot for the home site itself, which carries most of the value, with excess land being valued at a minimum value of $10 per square foot. The base value in the subject's neighborhood is $750,000. This lot is significantly smaller than the average lot in the 503034 neighborhood, but it is larger than the 2 neighboring properties by more than 2,000 square feet. The subject's home is also more than 700 square feet of finished space than both neighboring properties. Both neighboring properties experienced increases to land and improvements like the subjects and relative to their respective improvement and land size. After completing the inspection, reviewing the information submitted, neighboring assessments, and comparable sales in the neighborhood, it was determined that the current assessment is fair and equitable and can be confirmed at $1,100,700.
Okay, thank you. Questions from any board members? Mr. Lawson?
Yes, this is for the staff. How much extra was given to the excess land in this case?
So the base value in that neighborhood, I'm Derek Dubay, I'm the residential appraiser supervisor. And the base value in the subject's neighborhood is $750,000 per home site. He is right there at the average home site in the neighborhood. If you see his worksheet provided in the packet, it's page 9 of 40. That's his residential worksheet. And you'll see that he's 15,274 square feet. Sorry, the subject is 15,274 square feet. And the average lot size in there is 15,377 square feet. So we apply that base value across the board, and we either add to or subtract depending on the size of your property. And in this case, he's just below it. So we subtracted 1,000 off of that base, and he's at 749,000. So no value has essentially been added for any excess land. He's simply getting the base value for a home site in that neighborhood.
Okay, I heard, I was a little bit confused on that issue because I think that was maybe why the applicant was saying that the rear can't be used due to slope and easements. But if nothing was added to it, then I think it's a wash. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Other board questions? Mr. Metzgen.
My question is, looking at the appellant's comps for the adjacent homes, where in the last 2 years, his increase as a percentage has gone up so much more. Could the department describe why that is, why his percentage increase is so much more than the neighbors?
Because both the lot and the improvement are larger than the two neighboring lots. So when looking at the average, his is bigger, so more would be added to it to make it fair and equitable across the board and in line with the two neighboring lots.
But
go ahead.
No. Can I follow up? But yeah, not the absolute dollars, but the percentage increase. I mean, I assume his base from make up a number 4 years ago was a little larger, higher than the neighbors because they had a larger house and so forth. But the percentage the last 2 years, I mean, if you started off at a larger base, the same percentage, his absolute dollar amount would go up naturally. But this is a double whammy, it seems.
Well, it could also be accounted to the difference in the improvements, such as effective age. The depreciation could also be different on the two as well. So that could cause the percentages to be different because they're depreciating at different rates.
You would know what the neighbors' effective ages are?
I can pull them up right now if you'd like.
That might matter a lot.
So the lot, I believe, on the left of him, which would be 4003010, has an effective age at 1980, which is 10 years less than the appellant's. And the other lot, which is 0400312, has an effective age of 1959, which is significantly lower.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members?
Yeah, I have one to the department. On the comp sheet that we have, The appellant indicated that comp one was a brand new home. Did you acknowledge that it was a brand new home?
So it was not a brand new home. It just had several updates given to it. So when looking at the comp sheet, you can see that no house is exactly the same as the appellant's house. The reason I chose those comps, which was because I believe that all of them demonstrated a fair market value across the board and demonstrates equalization in how the appellant's house falls in line with sales in the area. And if you look at all of the sales comps, you can see that all of their assessments were lower than the sales price.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, other questions? No, not hearing any. Ms. Vitus, if you would take a minute to wrap up, please.
So again, after the inspection, the information submitted, all neighboring assessments and comparable sales within the neighborhood, we would recommend that the current assessment is fair and equitable and can be confirmed at $1,100,700.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Frizzetti, if you would take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, of course. I think the important thing, I do want to correct Ms. Vitus for one thing. She had mentioned that one of the adjacent properties, or they were both less than mine in size. That's not factually correct according to the Arlington Real Estate Assessment website. The one that actually is, one of the adjacent properties is actually larger than mine by 200 square feet. And again, I brought up the fact that the backyard because I don't think it is appropriate from a market perspective to take one formula and simply apply it to every home and say, well, you've got 15,000 square feet, therefore you have X dollars extra. Again, the final point that I think is important is I have a nationally recognized firm that does valuations for purposes of refinance, and they valued it significantly lower. And that was an independent third party that came to a very different conclusion than the Department of Real Estate Assessments by Arlington. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now it's the discussion is just among board members, so everybody else needs to refrain from speaking. So comments.
Well, I guess I'll start, Mary. My original impression was that maybe this was assessed a little bit higher compared to properties in the vicinity, and also looking at the neighbors that, and I thought maybe the original value for last year was more in line, but looking at really the square footage on the properties, it doesn't really compare. And I think, and I was asking the question on that new home, because I believe Mary Hogan was the listing agent on that property, so she can probably tell us a little more about it. But I really don't see where we can make any adjustment based on the square footage and sales that have happened over there.
Okay, I'll jump in there after you. My concern on the appraised value, which, I use the word appraised loosely from the CD, when mortgage companies, and yes, this is a very large mortgage company and they do a lot of lending nationwide, but when there's not a full appraisal or we don't have any way to look at how they came up with that $999,999, it gives me a little bit of angst from a standpoint of putting any weight on it. A lot of times what lenders do in lieu of doing a full appraisal, especially if there was no cash out or it was just rate term, is that they do their own inside type of valuation, which is generally on a far more conservative basis from a standpoint, because remember the appraisals that are done for lending are done for just that. The purpose is for lending, not for tax assessment. So myself, I don't put a lot of weight on a CD value that says, less than $1 million. without seeing how that actually was, determined. So, I don't know. What does everybody else feel about the comparables that the county used? Mr. Lawson.
On the house that was indicated to be brand new, it could have been a situation where the builder gutted it and for whatever reason left the walls in place due to setbacks or or whatever. So I would, I don't know that we'll get the answer today, but I'd be interested to know if they had to get a CO. Sometimes when there's a house fire or something like that, the damage is enough that you need a new certificate of occupancy. I don't know that we know today whether that was obtained or not, but I think gutting a home would be pretty much the same as a new home. So I would tend to discount that. I'm kind of where Jose was. I was initially thinking there should be a reduction. After going through it, I'm not sure that I'm there. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Gates.
I do see that it is the land values a little bit higher. It's a little more land. But I also look at the fact if the easements and things are restricting the, additional use of that land, I do, it's an impact. That offset, I think it should offset the size difference of the lot. Because the lot is valued higher because it is more land, but I'm not sure it's all the same usability.
Okay, other comments? Mr. Lawson.
Was there a survey? I don't recollect seeing one.
No.
See, I would have, I could have gone with you, Mark, had I seen a survey that indicated encroachment into the building footprint. But without it, you may very well be right, but we don't have evidence to that.
Right. In addition, the fact that you may not have buildable space, and there is the question of utility, which I agree with, but you also have a buffer then of additional space between you and neighbors, which, Jose, you may want to comment more on that from a standpoint of marketability, but that is a factor for some buyers. So.
I think it does. I think it would affect more if the lot was really actually, of the, normal size in Arlington, 6,000 square feet or 7,000 square feet. And a size of, this size of a lot, I don't think it affects that much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Mr. Matzkin.
I would add on precisely what Jose said, that furthermore, in such a large lot, county wouldn't allow 50, 60, 70% coverage such that wouldn't be able to build on the slope when it wanted to. If it were flat, we couldn't build on that area back there just by county code. So the other point I was thinking was I looked again at the comparables that the department brought to bear, and I see the comparables 2 and 3 the lots are about almost a third smaller, but, and I don't have it in front of me now because I'm afraid to lose you, but the value, the assessed value of the land wasn't anywhere near a third less.
Right.
So I'm not so, and I know we stair step it up, and each additional square foot of land is worth less than the one before it, but it seems, I was with the originals that maybe this ought to go down, but now I can't make a case for it.
Okay. All right. Any further questions or a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion, since there's no other comment, that we confirm the assessment at $1,101,700.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second by Mary Hogan. All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, no opposed. It's unanimous. Mr. Frazetti, the county has been confirmed at 1,101,700. Thank you, sir. Okay. With that, I mean, Rosa, do we have the Travers McCurdy?
Yes, she's here.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead, just for those that don't know, I don't know why I'm not. Case 30030471899 has been drawn. Okay, and then case 4, just for the record, Mr. Lawson has a conflict and is not going to participate on this. Additionally, Mr. Penaranda, I'm going to step out.
Okay.
So you're going to go ahead and start that.
All right, Mary. We'll see you later. All right, we'll go ahead and continue with the agenda. So we're going to go to case RPC 03003-069. The address is 3853 North River Street. And I believe we have Mrs. McCurdy. Mrs. McCurdy, if you can start with your minutes, please.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my case. Can you all hear me and see me?
Yes.
Yes. Good. Okay, great. And I thank Mr. Lawson for acknowledging. I wasn't aware he was on the board, and I'm glad that he's recognized his conflict of interest and has stepped out of this particular proceeding. I just wanted to reiterate for you all, I think you all have my photographs. I'm no expert. I really don't know very much about real estate, but and assessments in general, but I wanted to make a few points to you this morning. All of the beautiful trees behind our house are gone since August of 2019. And during that time, our assessment of all of the, but these were not our trees, they were the trees on the neighboring lot, but my house is oriented towards the back entirely. There are no windows on the front of my house. And so all of the windows now no longer have any green private views, which they previously did. And during this time, our assessment actually went up on our taxes, not just stayed even. And so, you know, when we bought our house largely because of the green space behind it and the private views. And I have to tell you that today we would not buy our house the way it is. And I think a lot of other people would feel the same way, because not only are the trees gone now, but soon there will be a house within 8 feet. And if the Board of Zoning Appeals doesn't grant a request, it will be still within 8 feet of our house, which really doesn't put enough space to have a green privacy screening in the area. And so it means that none of the rooms in the back of my house will have any sort of privacy any longer. So that includes my master bedroom, my master bathroom, my dining room, my living room, my kitchen, everything. That's everywhere where we live. So we will be, you know, having to have people peer in at us, and we'll peer in at them. The county told me, Tressa told me that the county assessment process doesn't place any value on trees or green views. But they call it an intangible, but frankly, it's not really an intangible. There is a way to do this. I mean, you could take 2 apartments of, you know, equal, that are absolutely identical in every way. But one has a view of a building a few feet away, and the other one has green spaces and privacy and a green view out it. And so you could take the difference in the value of the property that was sold with the green views, and I'm sure it would be higher, and just, you know, subtract that from the value of the other one and take that. You could actually apply that same methodology, the percentage of whatever the higher amount was, across townhouses and single family homes and everything else throughout the county. So I don't agree, frankly, with that argument. The other argument that the county made was that no other assessment surrounding of the 12 houses changed in the process of looking at my assessment. And that's true, of course. If you don't value the trees, you don't value green views as part of your assessment method, of course, their valuation wouldn't change. And then thirdly, the comparables were chosen didn't have their green private views ripped away. So they're not really true comparables. So I'm not saying that the value should go down forever. I just don't feel that, within 5 to 10 years, if we manage to get our green private view back there, then yes, our valuation should go up at that point. But I don't see how you could say that the value went up from 2019 to 2020 for sure. And maybe, the next year, until we can get our green privacy back, I don't see how this is a fair assessment at all. That's it for me.
Thank you. Ms. Vitus? I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything either.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic back on. At the request of the owner, only an exterior inspection was conducted. During the inspection of the subject property on March 6, 2020, it was observed that the trees were removed from the neighboring property, but no trees have been removed from the subject property. Due to the removal of the trees at 3865 North River Street for the construction of several new homes, the appellant feels that the value of the home has decreased. The assessor's office does not recognize temporary construction sites on neighboring properties when determining values, as Arlington has many instances of tree removal and new construction occurring across the county at any given time. The county also does not place a premium on properties that border wooded lots. While investigating this case, we conducted a review of several sales around the county of properties also near construction sites, but found no evidence of an impact on values, nor has any adjustments been made for any other property that borders construction. Arlington County is considered a densely populated urban area where construction and scarcity of land are prevalent. Based on this information, the county recommends that the 2020 assessment be confirmed at $1,080,900. And I'd also like to say that in this neighborhood, right across the street from the appellant's house, you can see at least 2 or 3 rows of houses. So it doesn't seem that many people in that neighborhood have the luxury of trees, and none of these houses have been valued any differently for trees or without trees.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go into questions from the board members. Do any board members have any questions for the staff or for the appellant? Go ahead, Mr. Hoffman.
Yeah, just for the department, what was I couldn't find it in the package. What was the increase in the neighborhood? Like kind of the average value increase year over year?
Let me turn to the I do not. Let me. I can pull up.
We can find that if you just give us a second. We can look that up.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then I guess I can ask another while we're waiting. I read the article that was in the package and some of the information on the buildings next door, and I guess it wasn't a rezoning. This was just some sort of by right development. Is that correct?
Yes. So originally there was a home that had a pipe stem leading up from the road, and it was one home in the center, and then it was surrounded by trees, which all the surrounding houses backed up to. And when the house was sold, a developer came in and is putting, I believe, 4 new homes on that site.
Okay.
The average increase for the neighborhood for 2020 was 2.22%.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the board? Go ahead, Ms. Maxey.
I have one. I want to make sure I understood from the appellant about the Board of Zoning Appeals. Are you saying the houses built next door may not be built? Where are you on that?
So, of course, the Board of Zoning Appeals hearings have been put off for the time being, but we have an agreement with the developer through Barnes Lawson and our lawyer to attempt to move some of the houses by 2 feet, at least one of them next to me, because they left no room for screening trees on their side of the lot. And they actually agreed with us that without the screening trees, that there would be no privacy between our house and their house, and therefore the value of both properties would be lower. And so they agreed with us on that, but that hasn't gone before the board, and it's going to take several years, I think, before we get, some trees. First of all, if the Board of Zoning Appeals agrees to allow them to move the houses, because it means that they have to move them closer to the street than the 25 feet that is required from the front of their street of their houses. These houses are, well, the house next to me, that will be next to me, is approximately 3 times the size of my house. And its windows look straight into all of my windows. So without those trees, neither one of us has any privacy whatsoever. So right now, I mean, no privacy because there's no trees. Eventually, even worse, because we'll have a house 3 times the size of ours going straight into ours and us looking straight at them, unless we can get these trees. And we can't get the trees unless there's enough space. And right now there's not enough space because they've got retaining walls because they're building into it, and that cut straight into, could cut straight into the roots of my trees if we can't get them pushed out further.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Hogan.
Yeah, I just going back to the appellant's point, if I understood it, regarding the way you assess, the county assesses condo buildings, and they do for the different, depending on the type of the floor that the condo is on, and they do account for the views in those condos and add value or detract value. Do you have anything to say about that?
The county does not currently have enough data to support that sort of data point in our assessment. We just don't have enough of it. We don't have enough. Derek?
Yeah, I can also help with that too. Condominiums are based on the sales comparison approach because they are so similar improvement-wise. And the differences between the improvements and the lots and the layout of the lots, size of the lots, those things just, they aren't there in the condos. So it's easy to kind of compare those just on the sales comparison approach. And when you do have something like a view on a condo or an apartment, it stands out a lot more, and it's easy to find in the data. It's easy to tell if something's selling 10% more because of where it's located on a building, because the improvements are, exactly the same. But in this case, we looked at a lot of instances around the county. There's one in East Falls Church where they did a big development behind a bunch of houses, and we kind of dug into the data there, and we didn't see anything, and we weren't provided anything to give us, we do studies on impacts of surroundings, such as like busy streets, where we can look at every single house on the street. But in the instance of trees, we just don't place a premium on that, and it's not something that we can account for, on the residential single family side because of all the differences between the lots and the houses themselves.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from the board? Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, I guess I'll ask the appellant the question because, I definitely sympathize. I've seen this happen in Arlington a few places over the years. And I tried to kind of do some of my own sleuthing on, neighborhoods and areas in Arlington where this has happened before, where you've got like an older house with a bunch of trees around it and they were torn down, and then maybe you got 4 or 5 new houses, to try to see if there was some data that could support your case. And, I wasn't able to find a good example of that where, there was a immediate decline in, demonstrated sales prices on the neighborhood. Part of that is, I'm guessing some of this, some of these sales get caught up in, the general upward trend of real estate values. So it's hard to see where, there would be an immediate decline. But I didn't know if you had looked at any other areas in Arlington where this has happened or where something similar had happened, and you had any data that you could kind of talk about, or, even if it's just a general location where you could kind of explain the similar thing had happened.
Well, I think I don't. I mean, like I said, I've got no expertise in this area, but I would say that most people and all of us who are in this neighborhood, we all agreed that, there was no way that we were going to put our houses on the market at this point in time because we just know that the value that we can get for them right now is going to be lower. And it's kind of common sense to everybody. Amongst our group, we have a real estate agent, and he too, he won't put his house on the market right now because of this problem. It's unresolved because he knows that the prices right now would be lower and people would be anxious to come in and if they thought that. But in the case of my particular house, unless the Board of Zoning Appeals grants the request, there's no way that I can repair this problem for us because of the orientation of my house entirely towards the back. It's the style of the house, as you can see. And the value of our house is the connection between, it's the Frank Lloyd Wright ethos. It's the value of the connection between nature and the internal part of the house. And that's the entire reason we bought the house. And so that's where the value of this house lies. It's an old house and it needs work on the inside, et cetera. But so it's certainly not going to sell for the premium that I think you guys have placed on it just by virtue of being in a neighborhood where we're the smallest house and everybody else around us is bigger and wealthier. But again, this is a reflection too of Arlington's values in the end and what kind of development we want to have around here and what kinds of codes we're going to allow these developers to get away with, where there is absolutely, people are building out to the absolute edge of the building envelope with no thought. Big houses essentially, it's not that it's entirely density here. Yes, 4 people can own houses in that area now, but who needs a 6,500 square foot house? Most of these people don't have 6 children to go with all that. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see my taxes go up this year. It's sort of, an additional salt in the wound after what's happened in the back of our house. So I just don't understand how you could put my taxes up given the situation. Yeah, eventually, if we can get the green space back, I fully support that because the value of my house would come back. It's not, we don't have a little colonial box where, people have windows on all sides, et cetera, and no orientation towards the outside and all the orientation is towards the inside of the house. Our house, the value is, again, the connection between the inside and the outside, the green space. It's gone.
Okay.
Realize it's an emotional appeal, but
it's okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the board? Okay, we'll go to wrap up. If you could go with your 1 minute, Ms. Vidas.
Yes. I got my mic on. We would just like to reiterate that the county does not remove value to any lot bordering construction. It is something temporary that can be fixed in the future. We have also investigated and conducted sales reviews in other properties that border construction sites and have found no data to consider an adjustment. We recommend that based on the information, the county confirm the 2020 assessment at $1,080,900. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McCurdy, you can go with your 1 minute wrap up.
I think I kind of gave my wrap up a few minutes ago. Yeah, I'd just say that I agree that, eventually my property value will come back. It is temporary. But I do think that for a few years at least, you guys should give me a break on the taxes.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go to among the board members to see where we stand and make our decision. So where do we stand on this issue? And please, anything?
I guess.
Go ahead, Greg.
All right. I was looking at it first from a standpoint of the average neighborhood adjustment, which was higher. I think if she was in line with everybody else in the neighborhood that was, nowhere near this development or, looking at 2 or 3% increase, the increase is lower than everybody around her. So from an equitable standpoint, it's tough to make the decision to take it even lower. Just my initial reaction, super sympathetic towards the cause. My gut says that, it's going to take some time to regrow the trees and all that. And ultimately, we all hope that the buildings that go next door are, I don't know, better than what they look like on paper right now. But that's, time will tell. I think if I could give any advice right now, I would say, since Ms. McCurdy, you're not coming from a real estate background, what really resonates with the board is if you were to bring some sort of comparables or challenge the comparables that the department is using, or any of the facts, based on the comparables. I think we are in a temporary position right now where there's construction and things are changing and moving around. But the value, we try to look as a much smoother long-term value on these properties. So I guess if I had any advice, I would say to come back maybe next year with some data or some comparable sales that might even show a decline on any, I realize that maybe there's only 12 houses affected, so you might not get a comparable sale, but maybe you could pull an area in the county where something similar has happened. You could get an appraisal, make sure it's an independent appraisal and not, a mortgage company that's just trying to get a loan. But, appraiser or a broker, real estate broker's opinion of value or something like that demonstrate to us, here's what a professional in the real estate industry is telling you this house would sell for today. That rings true with me. And everybody kind of puts their own weight on the different sides of appraisal. There's different, it's a multi-faceted thing to try to come up with a fair market value. You use a lot of different variables, but I would say if you could come back with something tangible from the real estate industry on what the actual sales price might be. I don't think it's $850. That's just my opinion. I don't think the department believes it's $850. That's what you've got in there. So, I guess I'll just leave it at that and hear what everybody else has to say.
Go ahead, Ken.
I'd like to add on to the next year thought. I'd like to see if the closest new house is built exactly with the 8-foot setback, or maybe BZA affects your point of view and ought to get back some more so that there's a reasonable chance for some tree curtaining, if that's a word, between the two houses, yours and the new one. If the answer is no, BZA doesn't get its way and the developer does, and maybe then maybe there might be some additional case for encroachment. Having said that, of course, if this were next year, I'd say, well, they built, with the 8-foot side setback, and that's the way things are in Arlington, and unfortunately you don't have relief. But maybe with some additional data you might be able to get some relief. But now it's prospective, and the current situation of construction going on, about to go on around you, is just living in a, as somebody said before, just an urban dense area, and relief isn't just for that situation warranted. I'm of course sympathetic, as we all are, that the green space has been violated, but that's just part of the deal of living closer in. So I'd like to see what happens next year if you choose to come back, if things change in some fashion, or your data can show that the department isn't quite as up to speed on the diminishing value of the loss of green space. I'll just finally add, and said, because that's a constant situation around here, that the chances are you're not going to find those data. That's just my fearless forecast. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you my stand in this case. Just like every other case that we hear, throughout the years, and this year that we're starting with the first meeting, we really have to have some good data, good evidence, I guess, that supports why the reduction should be made. I sympathize, and I can see why after so many years that we're used to having specific view or trees or one style of living that all of a sudden is cut. But just because of that, I don't think a 20% reduction in assessment just to give somebody a break is is the way that we should proceed. There is no data right now that we have that would support that the values actually have dropped because somebody else is building next door. We see this throughout the county and other counties and every other place, Once the properties are built, sometimes the values even go up. But for this year, I don't see why or how we can make any adjustments. And, I know the tenants and the neighbors are, even the real estate agent, if it was a neighbor, feels that, this is going to be affected, but we don't really have data that supports that. And, for a reduction of 20% for the next 10 years or, whatever until the tree grows, I think it's reasonable. So based on that, I'm not in favor of making any adjustments to this point. Any other comments? No comments or motions? All right, since we don't have anything else, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we confirm the assessment at $1,080,900.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. A motion by myself, Jose, and a second by Mary Hogan. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? It's all unanimous. So the assessment is being confirmed for this year at $1,080,900. Mr. Ferdy, thank you for your presentation, and I hope that hopefully you get some relief to the Board of Zoning. All right, that concludes this case. Do we have the next appellant?
Yes, he's here.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna continue.
Jose, there's a little bit of feedback on your microphone.
I don't know what.
Do you have a headset you can connect to?
Not at this point.
That's better.
Is it better?
Now it is.
Okay. Let's go to RPC 05054-043, 3510 Lorcom Lane. And who do we have representing the case?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can see you, but I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Would you mind giving me like two minutes? I had to get out of house and I'm parking. I'm in my parking lot. Just 2 minutes. I am reaching in front of my computer. I'm extremely sorry.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll take a 2-minute break.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a quick break.
Well, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break then, and we'll come back at 10:11.
Appreciate everyone. Thank you.
No problem.
Jose,
Yes?
can you adjust your mic and try to speak up? They're having difficulty hearing you.
Let me see what I can do. I'm not sure.
It sounds a little bit muffled. Not the video, it's the mic. I can't hear you at all now.
Say something, Jose.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you,
Yes,
but
we can hear
you might want to just speak up a little bit.
Okay. I'll try to speak a little louder.
Okay. All right.
Since I see Jose and Derek, this is Ken. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because couldn't before. Good. That's all. Thank you.
All right. So 10:11, we'll be back.
Okay.
Ken, the video it adjusts itself on who's like moving or who's speaking. So sometimes it'll take people off screen. Like it'll remove
that's your case. To the fourth case in the agenda for today. Again, it's RPC 05054043 35110 Lorcom Lane, and I think we have your first name is Varun Kariwaya. You can go ahead and start with your 8 minutes, sir.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Varun. I have been living in county for 20 years now. Regarding this is my primary residence, 3510 Lorcom Lane, and the reason for my appeal to the board was lately, in last 2-3 years, I have noticed the appraised assessed value has gone up a lot. And when I check the comp sale like very much close to the structure of my property and my house and the shape of my house compared to other that's going on, I feel that the assessed value could be adjusted. There is definitely a room to improve or get the assessed value in little bit in my benefit. And that's what I'm going to be presenting today, that why I think my house value is little higher. So I will be opening the comp. So I'll be directly going from comp that I think Ms. Story has provided in her justification. I'll start with, I think she put the first one as 05054 044 32 3420 Lorcom Lane. So that comp, all right. So first of all, my main issue with the house that I always feel like this is overvalued in the assessment is this is a hill, and this is at the corner lot. So the buildable area, if somebody come and look at it, it's like, I don't think it's like 30% of the land. Like my lot is like approximately 11,000 something, close to 12,000 square feet. And buildable land is not gonna be more than like 3,000 to 4,000 flat land. It's super steep hill. It's impossible to build. We have had like many builders coming in, and everybody just said like, this lot you cannot build anything. Whatever you have, that's the maximum flat land that you can use. Now the second thing is this is a corner lot, so again it has its own issue. Now the comp thing that the first comp that has been mentioned, 3420 Lorcom Lane. So first thing that I noticed, like it has the house has 16,600 lot size. So I'm not very much sure how I can compare that with my 11,000 lot. But even after looking into that, like it's not what I think is the fair comparison. Now let me open the three comparison that I have been seeing. Well, I put it in my documentation. All right, so that's for sorry. So the first 16,000 land. So one that she mentioned, or whatever I have seen, is 05054044. It has 16,000 land, and the land value assessed. The address is 3843 30th Street North. The land value assessed is 700,700 for that. 700,700 and 7,900. I'm so sorry. I'm not very used to reading all these big numbers. And the build is 1980, and my build is like 1960. So I don't think we can do the fair comparison there. Now the second house that has been mentioned, let me see, 3843 30th Street. And it has been mentioned that it was sold for $1 million. Again, if you see the picture of the house inside, just by looking into the picture of the house and looking into what my house condition, you will just like right away, you will see the difference. This is totally remodeled house. Everything is brand new, appliances, flooring, kitchen. This is not at all a comparison between the two houses, if you can. So I've seen every picture in very detail there. All the appliances are new, flooring is new. Where is my note? The back side of the house is totally flat, and it has a very big and very nice deck. And if you see the back of my house, my flat land as a backyard, I have done a little bit of measuring myself. It's like 10 feet by 1, so it's like around 1,000 feet of flat land. That's all I have in my backyard. But here the deck itself is like 1,000 feet. So the comparison, I'm not sure. It's very, very good comparison there. Then the next one that I was seeing, Nelly Custer Drive, the RPC is 040150022. Let me put that in Arlington. I'm so sorry. RPC search. So yeah, by the way, I'm very much familiar with this RPC, and then the maps. I build the maps. My profession is building the map. I work for Montgomery County. All right. So now this next RPC 0401502. Again, you see it is totally remodeled from inside when it was sold. Before it was sold, you look at any of the picture of that house, and you will see the huge flat land in the back. I'm not talking about the front, the back side. When you see the real estate picture, you will see it. And then the condition of the house is extremely well. That is why it was appraised. It got sold for $1.something million. And same thing for the next RPC, which is 04003-032. The address is 3809 37th Street, North Arlington. Let me put that in the RPC. Again, the lot size is 10,000. I'm hearing myself. Why I'm getting it? Sorry. My voice is coming to myself. It's echoing somehow. Something happened. Can you all hear me well?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, good. All right. So the other house, which is 3809 37th Street North, the lot size is 10,000 square feet, and the assessment is less than 700,000. This, you can compare it a little bit, the land value of it, but again, like for the comparison is again not going well, because my main issue it's my land is not useful land. You cannot, it's not a buildable land. In 3 direction of my house, it's all the trees, and again, yeah, I know trees, we can cut the trees by getting the permission, but even if whatever I do, I took an estimation, what do I need to do to make this land a little more useful, and they said like $300,000 you had to spend, and then go through the bunch of zoning and things like that. So it's a useless land. No, it looks like 11,000, but that's all.
Let me stop you for a minute. Your time has already expired. If you can just wrap it up and
sure.
Continue.
Right. So yeah, my appeal here is the land that has been assessed is not fair value, because it's useless land. It's on the hill. It's not buildable. And I can compare with whatever the comp value that has been sent in the report. Those are not a correct comparison with my house situation. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vidas?
Hi, yes. So I just want to speak originally to the comps themselves. We aren't saying that the houses are the same. The comps are used to indicate value within the neighborhood. So I'm not saying that those houses are exactly the same. It's just showing what is going on, and we're using those to indicate if our values are fair and equitable in comparison to sales in that neighborhood. So moving on. This house was not inspected due to COVID-19, so we were not able to see the interior, but it was recently inspected in 2017 for a review, which also went to the BOE, when the same issues regarding the land were raised. The appellant felt that since he was built on top of a hill and on a quarter lot, that 30% of the land is unbuildable. Again, the county values all single-family land the same. The land valuations are done using the base lot method, which places most of the value on the home site itself, and excess land is valued at a contributory value. There are many slope lots that are comparable properties with excess land. In the subject's neighborhood, all the lots are valued equitably. I'd also like to say that excess land holds value even if it is not usable. So he could say that it's unbuildable, but we still have to value it. We can't just ignore it. We value it at a minimal value similar to outlots at $10 a square foot. Unusable, unbuildable outlots that don't carry home sites must also be valued and are valued at $7 a square foot. Even if the land is encumbered by easements or setbacks, they still must be valued for tax purposes and are not valued at valued at a minimal contributory value. Recently, the neighboring property, which is RPC 05054-044, which had the same slope of land as the subject, sold in 2017 for $1,050,000, and at the time was assessed for $965,000 or $65,200, which supports that no adjustments may be necessary. Based on comparable samples in the neighborhood and the 2020 analysis, we recommend that no change be made to the 2020 assessment and that it be confirmed at $1,002,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board to the appellant or to the department?
Can I speak?
Not right now. We're going to take the
Sure.
questions from now.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Matson. I think your microphone is off.
You are absolutely correct, but no longer correct. You were. On a question for the department on land value only. Looking at the appellant and the three comps, first, they're all in the same assessment neighborhood, right?
Two of them are not. They're in a close by neighborhood.
That may answer my second question, because I'm finding, okay, which one is in the same neighborhood as the appellant?
It should be the second or two.
Comp 2.
41522.
Okay, no, okay, then you've answered my question. I don't have an issue. Thanks.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Lawson. I think your microphone is off also.
Okay, this is for the applicant. I'm familiar with the topo in your neck of the woods, and was involved in a project that Gruber Cooley did, which was about as tough a terrain as you can imagine. Do you have any estimates from builders as to retaining wall costs or anything of that nature that would help us recognize how much extra it would cost in order to utilize this property?
Yes, so the retaining wall we had, so we right now we currently have one retaining wall which is around, if I say 100 square feet by like around 6 square feet. And what I have, I mean, that is also in a very extremely bad condition when we bought this property 10 years ago, and still since then it is horribly bad condition. But to replace just that wall, it was like $130,000 just to replace that wall. And then we have called a retaining wall expert person to make one more new retaining wall, and it was around $90,000 to make little bit use of our land so that my kids can play there.
Does this property have a variance from the BZA?
If you're asked.
Who's the question to?
Did the BZA grant relief given that this is a corner lot? Setback relief.
Do you know anything about it, Mr. Sabee?
If you don't know, that's okay.
I don't think we have a response from that, so. Any other question? Okay, well, we don't have much information besides what was presented, so we're going to go ahead and take the wrap-ups. Ms. Vidus, you're going to start with your 1 minute, please.
I would just like to reiterate that the neighbor was recently sold for higher than assessed, so we have not seen any indication that the slope has caused for the assessment to need to be lowered. Based on comparable sales in the neighborhood and the 2020 analysis, we recommend that no change be made and that it be confirmed at $1,002,000.
Okay, thank you. You can take your 1 minute wrap-up, Mr. Chitterwell, now. You can tell us.
Sure.
Anything else you want to add in a minute?
Sure. So I would like to challenge that line that the comparable houses that's going with are almost the same price as 1 million, because any house that you see that is sold for $1 million and the age is almost like between 1950 and 1970. I'm giving 10 years before and 10 years after my house is built. The condition of the house is renovated. It's very, very new, whatever sales price. And that's what you are not, I think, seeing pretty much in the picture, that people are renovating their house. They are putting new appliances, new hardwood, new kitchen, bunch of new bathroom, and then they are selling it for $1 million. That makes total sense. You should, and now I would like to reiterate, when I appealed it in 2007 and I could not make it to the meeting, it was definitely my mistake. But I could have challenged at that time also the same thing. When you came in 2017 for an assessment, you just looked at outside. I wanted to show you from inside. Look at my house. Look at the original bathroom. They are like 50, 100, I don't know, whatever, like 70-year-old bathroom. They are original shape. So it's not comparable. $1 million sale in my area makes sense, but you cannot compare the remodeled house with what I have in original shape. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It's among the board members now, and let's see what you guys think about it. Anybody with a comment? Go ahead, Mr. Lawson.
I'll go ahead and start it off. I know that the county in certain instances will, adjust. For example, if a single family house is on a busy highway, there's a reduction in the lot value. Here, they're saying that there are many slope lot comparable properties with excess land are all valued equitably. This is such severe topography that I would, in my own analysis, I think an adjustment downward of the value of the excess land would be appropriate. Because I'm familiar, the last case that you all heard, Ms. McCourty, we negotiated significantly with her, hours and hours and hours. And the whole purpose of that was to ensure that our new properties and that the neighboring properties, including hers, had usable area in the rear yards. And that's what this applicant is kind of talking about. And in order to achieve that, it's going to be very expensive. So I think at a minimum, we should knock it down just by what was added for excess land. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maxine, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm hoping I can resurrect it. It had to do with the effective age. The appellant was talking about old bathrooms and comparables that had new kitchens. But I see that the effective age, and this is probably the wrong time, I should have asked this of the department 8 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago. Given that they didn't have internal access to it this time, but saw it in 27, I'm thinking and asking and answering at the same time. I apologize.
Okay.
The effective age is 1990. I mean, that's not a 70-year-old house. That's an effectively, one generation ago house.
Right.
I'm ruminating. Can somebody help me? And if not, I don't deserve it.
I understand.
Yeah. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Before I give my opinion? Well, I think in this case, I don't have enough for me to make any suggestion to change anything. I understand the sentiment that, this is not usable, this is not the same as my neighbors or anybody else that is selling at this price, but I don't have any comparables, I don't have any numbers, any other properties that have suffered the same for me to say, yeah, we should make a change based on this. So by not having enough information, which, it's on the appellant to present, I'm not going to suggest to make any change on this. Go ahead, Tim.
So Jose, what you're saying is, though, if he could bring in some cases where very slopey, unusable properties sell for less than otherwise comparable properties, he ought to come back. If he can find them, he ought to come back next year and make that case. But we can't make it today on intuition, but we could make it in theory in the future on real data. Not having said that, the department says they don't see that there's any such diminution of land value because of significant slopes. But if the appellant's free to find it on his own and come back and revisit this, is that what you're suggesting?
Right. I think like with any case that we hear, it is on the appellant to provide information and documentation that we can use to be able to make any change. And I don't think we have in this case.
Yeah, I would add, just looking at Comp 2, that in his own neighborhood, meaning every square foot of land is assessed the same, precisely, that, he has a lot that's a third more, but the assessment's only 5% more, or 6-7% more. That might strengthen the department's argument. But if some data could be brought up, because this isn't the first or going to be the last appeal based on unusability of a significant portion of the land. So we need to wait, in my opinion, for some data to come up that's the unusability really reflects on sales prices. Since we haven't seen it yet, we ought to back off.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I get it fully.
Anybody else? Any comments, questions to the board? No?
I agree with Ken.
All right. Anybody willing to make a motion in this case? If not, we'll proceed. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and make a motion and then one more time that we confirm the assessment for this year at $1,002,000.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
I did. Mark.
Okay, we have a motion made by myself and a second made by Mark to confirm the assessment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? No, it's unanimous. So the assessment for this year is being confirmed. Thank you, everybody, for the presentation. And we're going to go ahead and proceed with the last case from the agenda, RPC 34024-306, 1200 Crystal Drive. Do we have the appellant in this case?
Yes.
I believe
Hi, she's here.
All right. Whoever is going to present for this case, you can start with your 8 minutes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well. Did you say I should start presenting?
Yes, this is Elfar?
Yes, this
Okay,
is
yeah,
me.
you can start with your 8 minutes, please.
Okay. I mean, basically, it's what I submitted on the papers. All of the comparable units that were sold during the requisite period were sold for significantly less than what my property is being assessed at. I think it's being assessed at over 900,000. The units that were sold that are comparable to mine are, were significantly less, in the 700 range, in the, 590,000 range. Even the BOE's 5 comparables, which is a little bit perplexing to me. The 5 comparables that were sent over to me from the BOE were all in my building, and each one of them was sold between 574,000 up to 780,000, being the highest amount. And each of these units, well, 2 of the units are, on lower levels on the 2nd floor, and then the other units that were sold in the $700,000 range were all on the 17th, the 12th, and the 11th floors. So there's a premium paid for, upper floors. My unit is on the 5th floor, and my unit is completely in the same exact condition that, I think from like the 80s that it was built in. It was never upgraded. And I sent in pictures to the, I forget the name of the person that reviewed this, but I sent in the pictures, and, you could see that there were absolutely no upgrades made or renovations made to my unit. I bought it for $740,000, at an arm's length transaction in December 2018. And I know that this is outside of the, the period that you review comparables, but there was a unit that was just sold, and I sent that to, I believe the person's name is Taffy, on unit 213, which is exactly like the same size and layout as my unit. It was actually sold in May for $775,000. And it's assessed, if I'm not mistaken, based on what I see here, I believe it was assessed in 2019 for $704,000. Maybe it's currently assessed at $715,000. So I think that my unit, I mean, being generous, I'll say 800,000 is an appropriate market value for my property. Thank you for considering this.
Thank you. And we have, I believe, a new appraiser for the county, Ms. Telleria Gutierrez.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Taffy. I'm one of the appraisers for the condos. So basically, the subject unit, which belongs to the Waterford House, originally was built in 1986, converted to condos in 1993. It's 65 units total, and it's divided between 4 different models. So of these 4 models, the subject unit belongs to the largest one. It's 1,772 square foot. So for this appeal, as mentioned, there was no interior inspection done. The appellant did send in the photos, which are attached to the package. From the photos, we could tell that the kitchen had been made some updates to the appliances. They're not the original appliances from the 80s, obviously. And there was a modification to the kitchen flooring. The bathrooms are in original condition, but are very well maintained because the Waterford is considered, you know, a nicer building as far as condos. As said, the unit is on the 5th floor, but it does include a view of the DC monuments and the airport, although it does sit at the tree line. So if you look on page 8 of your BOE packet, you're going to go ahead and see the sales that we saw during the 2020 analysis period. So basically, these sales, the ones that were deemed valid and open market, contained assessment to sales ratios between 0.668 and 0.941. So with those ratios, undervalue of our assessments compared to the market price. So most sales except one fell within this range, which was the subject. So the subject sale was in the 2020 analysis.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
Feedback.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback from your.
Is it my mic?
I think so.
I hear it, but I mean, I don't have anything on in here.
Yeah, it's better now. I don't know why. That is better.
Okay. So as I was saying, the subject sale did have a high ratio of 1.212, so we deemed it an outlier. I did see that there was a departmental review last year, and per the notes on that review, it was an all-cash sale. So that sale did stand out for our analysis. So given what we saw, there was a 20% increase applied to the 2 smallest models, 7% increase applied to the second largest, which is the 1,444 square foot, and only a 1% increase applied to the subject space model. So one of the things outlined in the appellant's concerns was the high HOA fees, but I do want to note that our assessments are solely based on what the market is showing. So a sales price will encompass other factors such as condo fees and amenities that a condo may provide, but we can only infer that if a condo has HOA fees that people might not be inclined to buy there, but the market is showing us that people still want to go and live at the Waterford regardless of those high HOA fees. Just so you know, after receiving the subject appeal, we did conduct some research on the Waterford in general. There is very limited sales in this condo building, and the last time we saw a sale for the same model as the subject was in 2014, and that sold for $875,000. On page 4 of your BOE packet, you'll see all of the comps listed. Comps 1, 2, and 3 are smaller than the subject. They are 1,444 square feet, but so basically they all sold for more than the subject sales price, but they have fewer bedrooms, smaller size, fewer bathrooms, and they have smaller balconies. She did mention that they are all on higher floors, which is correct, but the way the building is set up, they actually have a less desirable view than the subjects, because the view from the 1,772 square foot model is actually the best view towards the entire DC area, National Airport, and the river. The view for the 1444 square foot is slightly angled. Therefore, the adjustments are a little less. But all of the adjustments at the Waterford range between 19% and 36%. Basically, the view adjustments are calculated as a percentage of total improvement. So that's kind of the way it's done. And currently, the subject's view is 26% of its improvement, which might seem large, but it's actually within range as the other three comps. And lastly, given the sales of the smaller units coming in way over our assessed values, we can conclude that the largest model will follow the same trend. Therefore, it is the department's recommendation to confirm the 2020 assessment at $904,600. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from any board members? Go ahead, Mr. Greg, I'm sorry, Mr. Hoffman.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I guess for the department, I know it's outside the sale period, but with these condo buildings, rarely do we get such a close comparable unit that sells kind of within a year of when we're doing the analysis. So could you talk on that unit 213 that the appellant brought up on the sale that occurred in May?
Yeah, certainly. So I did see that sale when the analysis period started. It was listed on the market. It hadn't closed, so it closed recently. It was an active sale, like I said, and we can't really deduce if that sales price is, because of something like an anomaly in the market right now due to the current situation. But we will include that sale in next year's analysis. But like she said, that sale closed at $775,000. It's currently assessed at $715,000. It's still selling over its assessed value, coming in at only 92% of the assessment. So, that's all I can say from that.
May I say something? Or not yet?
Hold on for a minute.
Okay.
If you have information about that unit that, because it's not in the package, if you want to bring it up, go ahead.
Well, first I'd like to say that although I received an email from Rosa that I would be getting a package from the BOE by June 12th, I actually didn't receive any of the stuff that Taffy just brought up with the comparables and all of that information. So, it's catching me a little bit offhand. But as far as Unit 213, I just want you to know that it sold within, a normal time period, right? Things don't, if anything, units in, from what I've been trying to follow the market, and I see that if something stays on the market for more than 30 days, then something, is a little bit unusual. I think that the only thing that we could say that given, the pandemic situation, this property may have sat on the market for a little bit more than 30 days, but it eventually did sell. And this unit is, size-wise and layout-wise exactly the same as mine. But in addition, I've seen the unit myself, and we have pictures of it. It is a lot more upgraded than mine. Its kitchen is completely upgraded. It has granite counters. It's got, additional cabinets. It's a completely redone kitchen. The bathrooms are also redone. There are several upgrades to that unit, including the floors as well, that my unit doesn't have. So yes, I do maybe have us, I'm on 3 floors higher, but I am at the tree line, as Taffy mentioned. It's really not, during the winter, maybe when the trees aren't in full leaves, I could see a little bit more than I do right now. I'm looking out right now, and I could see the Capitol from an angle, but it's not the crazy view. And I just want you to know that the monument is covered by that for lease sign at the, by Longbridge Park. There's another building there, so it's not like I get to see their full monument or anything. I love this place. I'm not trying to reduce its value to me, but it really is not. It's certainly not, you know, I wouldn't be able to sell it for $900,000 if I wanted to. And the fact that as soon as I moved in here, I just want you all to know that I didn't even get notice about this, but within like 2 months of my moving in here, the HOA went up, you know, from like 1,500 to like 1,800 without my even being able to calculate that. And I'm certain, you know, Taffy had mentioned how there just aren't a lot of sales in this building. And part of the reason why, I know that this building has a lot of older folks in here who would like to sell their units, but they have difficulty selling or even, you know, believing that they'll be able to get their, you know, the right market value because of the high HOA. And people don't want to pay that much for it. You know, to compare, the building next door to us, 1300 Crystal Drive, has significantly less of an HOA, and their amenities are outrageously more than ours here. They have 2 pools, they have, you know, use of our gym, you know, they have party rooms. They've got all sorts of things that we don't have. So,
Okay.
I mean, all of this goes to reduction in our market value. Sorry if I'm taking up too much time.
Yeah, you do have another minute at the end too, so if you got some other stuff to bring up, you can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ken, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. For the department, I lost audio for like a minute. I unknowingly pressed the button, but so if the department brought this up, I apologize. I wanted to know if you know what the assessments are. This is all about equalization for units that are 1,772 square feet, knowing none sold recently, but how are they assessed? That, to me, that's a key.
Yeah, so anything above the 5th floor has a total assessment greater than. So the subject is assessed at $904,600. The one right under it is actually, give me a second here.
Yeah, I know it's a couple of $1,000s for view, but as a percentage, it's not much. So if you can go through the tier, maybe that would be helpful, which is, I think, what you're doing.
Do you want the tier for the views or just?
Well, I know the exact same unit on the first floor shouldn't be assessed as much as hers, and the one on the 10th floor should be more, of course. But I just want to know comparable units in that building going up and down the elevator, how they are assessed.
Okay, so sure. Starting on the 2nd floor, so that unit that everybody's been talking about, unit 213, that has no premium for the view. So starting on the 3rd floor, starting on the 5th floor, you'll see an increase for the view. And like I mentioned earlier, that view is 26% of that improvement value. So from then on up, you'll just go on higher from 26% just up. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, so maybe I can pose the question differently. Accounting for those view percentages, are they all, otherwise, if they were all on the 5th floor, which is impossible, they all be assessed pretty much the same? And this is not a brand new condo building, so I'm sure there's some effective age changes over time. But so going up on the 6th, 7th, 8th floor, what are the, can you just look at your screen and tell us what the assessments are for those?
Sure. Let me see here, 1 second. So for total assessments here, give me 1 second. So the floor going up would be 914,200. I have 912,600, 931,000, 932, 938, 939, going all the way up to the 17th floor, which is 974,700. The 18th floor on this building is actually all the units combined into one penthouse unit.
It's penthouse.
So yeah, that one is really large.
Yeah. Okay, one last question on this. On the 4th floor, just beneath the appellant, what's that assessment?
Give me a second.
In theory, it should be 26% less, but I'm just double checking.
Hi, the total assessment is $886,200, and the improvement value is $815,300, and that's for 413.
The improvement. What? I'm sorry, Deidre. What
Just
the
for
two
the,
numbers meant?
so the total assessment is 886,200. They all have the same land, but the improvement breakout is 815,300.
Oh, the common land. Okay, so it's very close. It's
about 16,000 lower than the subject.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Greg, would you have any other question? Or? No? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and go to wrap-ups. Ms. Telleria, we'll start with you 1 minute.
Alright, so as we've seen during the 2020 analysis, almost all of the sales which were smaller than the subject sold significantly over their assessed values. The only sale which sold under was the subject's, making it an outlier. As stated, the unit 213 that was mentioned does have no view value or floor value, given that it is on the second floor, and that's why it should not be a complete comparable to the subject. And which is why I respectfully ask the board to confirm the assessment as fair and equitable at 904,600. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Selfar, if you want to go with your 1 minute wrap-up, please.
Sure. Just again, I want to reiterate that I didn't see the document that Taffy was referring to, but the one document that I have with the comparables is the sale prices were again in the range of 574,000 up to 780,000. So while Taffy's right that they sold for less than mine, you know, and again these differences. I'm sorry. They actually sold for more than mine, most of them. And these differences probably accounted for the fact that they're on upper floors and much more renovated than my unit is, and completely redone. You know, the sale prices are still significantly lower than what you're assessing me at. You know, like $120,000 less. So I still think that my unit should be, you know, assessed over 100,000 less than what you currently have it assessed at, given its that it's unrenovated, that other units have sold for, you know, around that same price. And again, that most recent unit that is 3 floors below me sold at $775 and is assessed at significantly less than mine is. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now it's going to be among the board members to see where we stand and where we end. Any comments? Mr. Lawson? Your microphone is on.
Should be on now. Can you hear?
Yeah, you're good now.
I'm on the board at my Alta Vista condominium. And what I learned when I went on the board was that prior boards had kept the assessment, the condo fee, way down. And unfortunately, we had to play catch up. And so we really had to jack up the condo fees. So condo fees are going to go up and down depending upon prior levels of assessment and so forth. And it could be that, you know, they're trying to increase the reserve fund. Not exactly sure why yours went up so much, but I do know why mine did. A second thing I want to share with the board, for whatever it's worth, is 3-unit condominium or 3-bedroom condominiums are very rare and very sought after. And at Alta Vista, we had a 3-bedroom available about 6 months ago. Yours truly put a bid in, and there was a bidding war, and I didn't come close, and it went way above the assessed value. So for what it's worth, I wanted to share that with my fellow board members.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because there is a consistent methodology of that's been applied to the building and the views, which seems like, I mean, Ken dug into it, and it seems like it's pretty straightforward and consistent. Just a couple of things that jumped out at me. Making the assumption this was an arm's length purchase in 2018, the current assessment would represent 10% compound increase in value every year since then. I don't know how that compares to the rest of the building or the market. It seems a little bit high. And then, just the gross value of the view. I'm not a condo guy, so I have a hard time fully, buying into the view thing, but that's definitely up to the condo experts, and they can usually demonstrate it with pricing. But unit 213, I mean, we're talking about $160, almost $200,000 in view premium. I mean, that just seems like a lot of money for 3 floors. And I'm pulling up the photos from the sale on unit 213, the realtor photos, and it's not like it's looking into a brick wall. That unit has a view as well. So I'm concerned making a major adjustment because the whole building is going to get thrown out of whack from an equitable standpoint. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas or suggestions, but I would support maybe going back to 2019. And then seeing how sales for the building kind of shake out over the next year. Maybe not all the way back down to what the appellants suggested, 800,000, but I think it might be less than what's currently being proposed.
Okay, thank you. Ken, you had a comment?
I did. Looking at the comparables, and again, they're much smaller, but they're much higher. My comment only is I think that there's a reasonable chance based on this limited data that they're under assessed. They should be closer to the appellant's assessment, not 100%, but they're pretty low relative to their recent sales. And so the department might want to take a long look at that. When it comes to, then finally, when it comes to views, it's true, depends on the season. Some people don't want to see monuments. Some people love to see trees, like to be below the tree line. I get a little antsy putting a lot of weight on that, although I know certainly it is relevant, but I'm not, I don't want to throw the building out of whack. I don't want to throw the tier out of whack. But I do think some of the other residents may be getting a tax break for the department's consideration. That's it.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think a lot of times we see that in buildings that, when there's a sale that really doesn't have many comparables because it's not a popular unit, it's going to have that effect that it's going to have to either adjust to either the size or other buildings because it's hard to get a comparable in the same building. Now, I have to note that this unit, 513, it was originally listed for $975, and they dropped it to $795, and I guess, Ms. Elfer made an offer, a cash offer, which was taken at the price that she got, which I think was probably a good price. The other unit that is, I think 213, that sold for $775, was also listed at, I think they had a price drop of $50,000. It was listed at $825, if I'm not mistaken. And I have to disagree. I think the unit that Ms. Elfer had, looking at the pictures, I think it looks in better shape than unit 213. 213 has it's all carpeted compared to her unit. I think it has, hardwood floors, very nice renovated bathrooms. In my opinion, looking at the pictures, it was in better shape. And I think going back to last year, it doesn't really make that much of a difference just to, as a sympathy to make a reduction. I don't think that's really what we're here to do. So it's only an $8,000 difference from last year to this year. So I really don't see how we can make a change just based on smaller units. I don't know what else, anybody else Want to make a comment on that? No comments? No other input?
No.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real rough approximation, but I'm trying to take the views out of the equation. And if you look at a square foot price on comp one, take that 1444 and try to scale it up to a 1772 square foot unit, that's a 23% increase. I'd only get a $780,000 assessment on the subject property. So there's clearly there's a square foot premium being added to this, and now Barnes has got one observation which I can definitely respect in his building, and where there's a shortage of units that are 3 bedrooms and above. Right. As a developer, I also don't usually see a higher price per square foot on the larger units. You usually see the opposite, just because of that gross sales price starts to hit, you know, those stratas where it's a jumbo mortgage. It's a, you know, your condo fees are upwards of $1,800. You know, when you look at it as a buyer, it starts to get a little bit difficult to justify that size unit on a per square foot basis. So, you know, I'd support a reduction. I don't think I have a lot of support here, so I'm not going to make a motion. But you know, if I could try to garner some support here, I would say if we could go back to the 19 value of 896,900, and then maybe the department could take another look at the views in the building, and potentially some additional sales that have come in 2020, and maybe they want to take another look at that to make sure that we're being equitable here.
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Quick comment on Greg's observation. I think that the appeal of this unit is less more square feet, because a 2-bedroom at 1444 square feet is pretty good size. It's more the bathrooms. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath is far less appealing than multiple baths. And I think that makes the department's case.
That's a good point.
Go ahead, Barnes.
This is my last comment. You know, the higher up, the better the view. But when the elevator breaks down, the greater the walk up.
When there's a fire.
The elevator breaks down frequently here. I just want you all to know that. Sorry. Sorry if I spoke out of line.
You have good aerobic capacity then, bless your heart.
Yes, I got my exercise since the gym is closed, but anyway.
Let's just keep it through the board, I'm sorry. Mark?
I think on Greg's comment, I think the assessments are equitable throughout the building. But I think they may be high given what the sales are showing. I think that they're tiering, the assessments are tiering well, but I think your point is they're not selling at those assessments the same.
Yeah, and Mark, I think we're all very hesitant to go down the slippery slope of adjusting one floor from a view, because it's going to be a lot of work to try to get this building back equitable. But I think you're right that it's probably not just a linear slope of value to the view as you go up the building. It's probably more like there's a category of good view and not good view. The appellant might be getting hit a little bit hard here. That's how I feel, at least, with being on the 5th floor, being right above the threshold, and then getting a $185,000 premium over the same unit 1 floor down.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about, and I did look at the pictures after that you guys were talking about it, but trees grow, things change, and I had a unit that, in a matter of, it was probably over 5 years, but that view dramatically changed. So maybe that view level start is a little different than it used to be when that view level was assessed. And I don't know that for sure, but it's an assumption.
Well, one of the things that I think would help a lot is when, you know, the department has a chance to actually go into the unit and take a look at it.
Right.
In this case, you know, they weren't able to.
I just want you to know that they came last year because I appealed last year
I'm
too.
sorry, it's only among the board right now. Any other comments right now? Anybody wants to make a motion or?
Can I just say something? I'm piping in here. Mary Hogan has gotten knocked off and she's trying to make a comment.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know why she's knocked off, but she just texted me and said, I've knocked off, and she's trying to respond to Greg.
Okay.
She might be in the waiting room. Rosa.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
She just texted. She's still trying to text or trying to get on.
Perhaps, Mary, you could call her and relay her comment. You know, if you can just get on the phone with her, maybe. And
Rosa, she said she can see herself on the screen, but she can't get in.
Did she follow the link? We haven't seen anybody coming in the lobby yet.
Hi, Mary, this is Deidre. Can you let her know I sent her a new link and try that one? There she is
she's
here.
Okay, I admitted her.
Okay. All right, bye.
Are you back, Mary?
I think I am. Yes.
Okay. All right, great.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Earlier, I was just going to say I agree with Greg about, you know, maybe doing something about reducing it a little bit. I do think there's something a little off on the amount that's being attributed to the views here, but I'm not really sure, you know, how much we can do. But I'd be fine if you wanted to go back to 2019. Not that it's a big difference.
Okay.
I kind of agree, but the reason I'm a little opposed to that is that I think the numbers are across the board high, meaning everyone in the building's equitable. But, you know, it's up to everyone.
Well, equitable is only one half of the equation, right? Fair market value is the other side. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I think fair market value is off. I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I think that's where we're getting out of whack. I think the equity, we've done a good job, or the department has done a good job of trying to keep everything equitable within the building, but they might be out of whack on fair market value. And there's something else while we had the little pause there, just pulling up the penthouse sale in this building, which was in April of last year. at $1.1 million. And this is a 2,800 square foot penthouse on the 11th floor, or the 17th floor, rather. It looks like 2 units combined. I mean, it's just a monster. They describe it as the opulent 2817 square foot palatial abode. And that's sold for 1.1 million, which is 200K above this 3-bedroom standard unit on the 5th floor.
Yeah, I saw that unit also, but I think it was listed also, originally it was listed for 1.6, if I'm not mistaken. Why the change, why they sold it at a lower price, it's hard to tell, but if we go to last year on this unit, we are going to be less than $10,000 difference from the 4th floor. I believe Deidre indicated that that was assessed at $886,200. Like I said, I don't think it's a big change, and I think maybe, like Greg suggested, it would be good to make take another look at the building. But for this year, I don't really see a justification, or, like we always say, the burden of proof is on the appellant, and I don't really see a strong evidence for me to make a significant change, other than, maybe it feels a little bit high, but you know how I feel about feelings.
Right. In the interest of moving on, I'm going to make a motion. If it dies, it dies. But I would motion to reduce the assessment to the 2019 value of $896,900. And with that, make the recommendation that the department go back and take a look at the fair market value across the building based on some of these recent sales over the past year.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Greg to reduce to $896,900, and a second by Mary Hogan to, all in favor?
Aye.
We have Mark, Greg, and Mary. Against?
And Barnes.
And Barnes, I'm sorry. Against? I'm against, and Kenny's against. All right, so the motion is passed. So the assessment is being reduced to $896,900 for this year. And we'll see how it goes. Thank you, everyone, for the questions and for participating.
Thank you.
Going to the schedule, I think we have, do you want to continue, Mary? I think we have to go to the requests that we have for the late appeals.
Mary?
Mary, can you hear me? I think your mic is off.
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You want to go ahead, and I think we have on the agenda to go to the request that we have for the late appeals.
Yeah.
Do
you want me to do that, or you can do it?
You want to go one by one, or?
Sure.
All three?
No, I think one by one.
Okay. The first request from, I think it's Mr. Hoagland. Did you guys have a chance to read the request?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Any comments on that request? No. On the request from Mr. Hoagland, I will, well, my opinion is that I think it was one of those cases that it was a late appeal, and I don't really see a reason that we should grant, an appeal for this year.
I'm sorry, which one are you looking at, Jose?
John Hoagland, 7184 Kendallwood Drive.
I think this is the guy that he lives in Texas and just basically
Right, what's the RPC? I'm sorry, I had the first one on the agenda up, but that's not the one you're doing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to RPC 28002-191.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
Any comments? Any?
So what does everybody think?
I thought he was late.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looked like he was assuming that he had to appear in person, which is just not going to happen in May when he wrote this letter. So I don't know if we were online and already talking about doing this on Zoom well before that, then we probably could have got it in on time.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the request. Do we have a second?
I second. Ken?
Ken, second for the motion made to deny the request in 28002-191. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor. Anybody against? No one? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, let's go to appeal. I think this is the one that you were looking at, Mary. 14018-101. I believe this appellant appealed in past 2 years, but I'm not sure. How do you guys feel about this case?
The deadline was April 1st, right? Or March 30th?
Well, to the board is April 15th.
April 1st?
15th.
Okay, so he was 2 weeks late.
I don't understand. The IRS put things off and COVID virus makes things ugly. I don't understand why he couldn't get this in 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
Seems to be a reasonable appeal, but I don't see why he didn't respond in timely fashion. Did I miss something?
No, I don't think so.
No, I agree with Ken. I mean, he lays out a good case, but the bottom line is it wasn't filed in time and doesn't really give a reason.
He said because of COVID-19.
If I could just jump in just for a second, we did talk to the county attorney about these, and the dates for the BOE applications were put on the assessment notice in January. So they said we could not accept late applications; that it was totally up to your discretion.
You know, as I understand it, the reason for IRS and other things being delayed or moved along is that you couldn't meet with your accountant, you couldn't do certain things. That doesn't apply to this scenario for appeals for the board. He doesn't need to meet with anyone.
And also because IRS employees were furloughed.
Right.
You know, they stay home and you can't have tax returns in somebody's home. None of that applies here. I'm with Mark.
Right, I agree. I mean, it was also for, to push out the payment of the taxes and whatnot. So I don't see a legitimate reason here why he couldn't have filed to have the hearing.
I agree.
Okay, do we need, I'll make a motion to deny this appeal.
I second, Ken.
And a second. Okay, so we have a motion by Mark and a second by Ken to deny the request. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Against? No one? It's unanimous again. And then we have the last appeal. What was that? Okay, it's RPC 09070003. Again, I think this is the same as the previous one, based on COVID-19, but, we've had, people could request appeals online for so many years, and I don't see why we couldn't do this here.
Is he saying, is he saying that he never got any feedback upon his, I don't know when he submitted this. And is he saying, clearly he didn't have to come to the department to get confirmation, but is he saying that he appealed on time but didn't get any feedback from the department, so he didn't know where he stood? And then decided to go to Clarendon Boulevard, but had to wait until phase 1 was over? I don't know when he filed.
Well, from what I'm reading, it says that he mailed it in, but the department didn't receive it. We're running to notify the office that we received that we mailed the income and expense reports prior to the due date and realized you didn't receive them until after they received correspondence by mail. So this is kind of a he said, she said kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't think the appeal was submitted. It was just they sent in the I&E forms.
Well, if that's right, if he didn't appeal, he didn't appeal. I mean,
yeah. Better luck next year.
It's kind of like the dog
he
ate my
does
homework.
say, because the county's negligence to notify us in a timely manner that they did not receive our income and expense, we missed the deadline to appeal the increase in property taxes. Now, I would say, first off, the county doesn't send out letters to everybody going, oh, thank you, we have it. I mean, I think it's their responsibility to make sure. And the fact whether they submitted it or not has nothing to do with whether he appealed. Because even if the county said, yes, we received them, that's not the determining factor of whether you would file the appeal or not.
Meaning
so I don't feel that they give us enough information to say why they didn't appeal on time.
But their assessment was received on time, I trust, and
Right.
therefore the proposed appellant had time to react, appeal. So and especially if the department didn't have the I&E, they made just a swag at what his assessment ought to be, that should have stimulated him even more quickly. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I guess we're all in agreement that this should be denied. Anyone wants to make a motion on this?
I'll motion to deny the request.
I'll second it.
Who seconded?
Greg?
A motion by Mary Julie and a second by Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so it's unanimous again to deny all these requests.
Hey, Barnes?
Yes.
Can I ask one question? I need to go back to the case on Lorcom Lane. Did you, were you in agreement with confirming that?
No, I opposed.
Okay, I thought so.
Is Rick Millman on, or Derek? Oh,
Rick is here.
Rick,
I'm here.
I just wanted to quickly suggest that you tell Taffy she did a great job as a rookie newbie.
Tressa,
Both
Tressa was
Tressa
also
and
new
Taft,
as well.
both Tressa and Taft are in their first year, so
Oh, wow.
they both did one.
Hey, can I throw something in too? On the residentials, I like to see the image without looking it up of what the surrounding properties are, which gives me the assessments and sizes and things like that on it. And how odd shaped the lot might be. Not just an area-wide map, but the immediate map.
The plat maps.
There's an exhibit of
Yes.
the map that shows the land and building assessments for the surrounding area, a block area.
Yes, yeah.
Out of the plat book, yeah, exactly what Mary said.
Okay. I'll talk to Deidre and Derek about that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have concluded with those appeals. Anybody anything else?
Same time tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay.
After business.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.